this look really easy. It's like...
In Alaska, summer is both a gift and a deadline. Most crops have only around 105 days to grow, compared with nearly 300 days across much of the lower 48. In that brief season, every part of the food system has to move at full speed before winter shuts everything down. So how do people grow food, raise animals, and harvest the seed when almost the entire year works against them? Roughly 40 miles northeast of Anchorage, a valley opens up between the mountains where the soil runs dark and fine, silt ground down and carried by a glacier that is still there, still melting at the valley's head. This is the Matanuska Valley, the closest thing Alaska has to a farm belt. And in late summer, it grows vegetables that do not look real.
I think I finally got it. Maybe.
The record cabbage grown here weighed nearly 138 pounds, more than the man who carried it to the scale. The same valley has produced broccoli heads the size of a bushel basket, and pumpkins so heavy they had to be lifted by machine. The reason sits 93 million miles away. At this latitude, around the summer solstice, the sun climbs and circles and barely sets, close to 19 hours of daylight at its peak. A cabbage in a Matanuska field photosynthesizes almost around the clock, laying down sugar and cell and leaf through a light that never quite switches off. Cool northern air keeps the plants from bolting, from rushing to seed as they do in the heat further south, so the energy goes into bulk instead of flowers. And the ground helps. Fine glacial silt laced with old volcanic ash, mineral rich and young. Put those three things together, long light, cool air, fresh soil, and the plant simply keeps building, well past the size it reaches anywhere else.
Okay. This thing is really big. It's round, it's like wider.
Oh yeah, like it's over 19.
But that light is alone, not a gift. The valley that grows 130-pound cabbage hands a farmer only around 105 frost-free days to use it. So the work starts indoors.
Juice, pepper. grows super quickly.
If it couldn't grow in June, it was done.
Growers bring their seedlings up under cover weeks before the ground is soft enough to turn, then set them out the moment the last frost lifts, because there is no time to start from seed in open dirt. Everything goes in fast and has to come off before the cold shuts the door.
Yeah, I think we were gonna have to like get a saw or something. This one up. My prediction might be wrong here.
Every August, those record vegetables draw crowds to the state fairgrounds in Palmer, where they are weighed on certified scales like prized animals and photographed all afternoon. But the giant cabbage is the showpiece, not the point. The most important thing is, the same sun does not happen a few hundred miles further north, on ground nobody lines up to photograph. And it does not feed people at all. It feeds what they keep alive through the dark half of the year. Follow the road north and east, deep into the interior, and the country changes. The mountains pull back and the land flattens into a broad basin around Delta Junction, cut by braided glacial rivers. This basin is the closest thing Alaska has to grain country. Thousands of acres cleared for barley and hay in a state that grows only a small fraction of what it eats. The growing season here is even shorter and harsher than the Matanuska valleys, pinned between a late spring and an early biting fall. But the days are longer. This far north, near Fairbanks, the summer sun stays up more than 21 hours around the solstice, riding low along the horizon and never fully going down. And here, the same light that turned a cabbage into a spectacle does something that no crowd cheers for. It grows grass, not for show, but for winter. Because the hard arithmetic of the north runs like this. The grass grows for around 100 days, and the animals that live on it have to eat it for 365 days. The gap between those two numbers, most of a year, comes out of a barn. And what fills that barn is hay, cut, dried, and rolled in a few warm weeks when the grass is up and the sky, for once, is dry. That last part is the catch. Cut grass has to cure. Dry down in the field before it is baled, because hay baled wet moulds or heats in the stack until it is ruined. So the farmer is not only racing the calendar, he is racing the weather. A run of dry days is the whole game. And in the interior, even summer does not promise one. When the window opens, grass ready, sky clear, the work does not stop at sundown, because there is barely a sundown to stop for. Crews cut and rake and bale past midnight, working in the flat gold light of a sun that will not leave, laying down one round bale after another while the dry spell holds. Miss that stretch of good weather, and an entire cutting can rot where it lies. The work carries a quiet dignity the crowds around the giant vegetables never see. A single machine and a single driver out in the field at 1 in the morning, putting up a winter that has not arrived yet. Every bale in the stack is a bet that there will be enough of them, and that enough will not turn out to be enough. And the animal those bales are cut to feed survives that winter in a way that, by rights, should not be possible. The animal those bales are cut for is one that Alaska lost once already. Bison are native to this country. They grazed the interior in numbers long before anyone put a plough through it. But the last of the wild ones died out here around 500 years ago. In 1928, 23 plains bison were brought north from Montana and released near the Delta River to find out whether the animal could make a living this far north a second time. They took hold, and their descendants still range the interior today. And on a scattering of ranches, bison now stand behind fences as well, raised for meat in a place where most livestock could never winter. Stand beside a full-grown bull and the scale is hard to take on. 6 feet at the shoulder, better than a ton on the hoof. The largest land animal in North America, wintering in one of the coldest corners it has, which raises a fair question. grazer that has size on ground where the grass lies buried under the snow for most of the year ought to starve. But it does not, and the reason is the one thing that separates a bison from a cow. Put a beef cow into a hard winter and its metabolism climbs. It burns hotter to hold its body heat, and it needs more feed to do so. Exactly when feed is hardest to come by.
Yep.
A bison runs the other way, however. As the cold sets in, its metabolism winds down. It moves less, burns less, and asks less of the ground than it did in July. The animal is built to feed hard through a short summer and then coast, slow and low, across a long darkness. The same bargain the whole country runs on. Idling down is not the same as eating nothing. Through the deep cold, a kept herd still works its way through hay. Round bales that run close to 1,400 pounds each. One after another until the grass returns.
In this area eating, they're also dropping manure to get their share, because there is a social hierarchy in the herd. So.
And that is what the midnight work in the fields was for. 2 months ago, every bale in the stack is a day the herd does not go hungry.
Look the best at the end of the winter, so.
And in temperament, these are not cattle. Bred from wild plain stock, they stay half wild, alert, fast, and hard to read. A rancher learns not to trust the quiet one, because a bison standing still 1 second can throw a man into a fence rail the next, without meanness and without warning. You do not tame the animal, you learn to work around what it is. Winter is the thing a bison rancher builds his whole year against. But on the far western ridge of Alaska, there is a place where winter is not the worst thing that can come for a herd, where the animals themselves can be gone in a single day, and the people who raise them can only stand and watch. That place is the Seward Peninsula, a spur of tundra reaching out into the Bering Sea on Alaska's western edge. nearer to Russia across the water than to the rest of its own state. No soil to farm here, no timber to build with, only open ground, wind, and a herd animal that has made a living on it long before anyone kept written count. Reindeer and caribou are, underneath the coat, the same animal. One line kept wild, the other bred to human hands for longer than the horse has been under saddle. About 18,000 reindeer live in Alaska today, and roughly 12,000 of them work this peninsula, kept by only around 20 herders. One trait makes that math possible. Where a wild caribou scatters at the first sign of danger, a reindeer holds to the herd and moves with it. Twice a year, that instinct gets put to use. Herders close the animal towards a corral built to hold them, and once the gate shuts, the work runs in an order that does not change. The herd is counted first before anything else touches it, because every step after scatters the animals, and a count taken later would not be a true count. Calves are marked next, a notch cut into the ear rather than a brand burnt into the hide, since a reindeer's coat is too thick for iron to reach the skin underneath. That notch is the only proof of ownership the animal carries for life. So it goes on before a calf can slip back into the crowd unmarked. Bulls are not kept for breeding, and they are gelded weeks ahead of the rut. So the energy that would have gone into fighting turns into fat instead. Velvet antler is cut in its own narrow window, while it is still soft enough to bleed before it hardens into bone. Only the yearlings get a single shot against a disease that can end a pregnancy before it begins. One vaccination, given once. Neighbours turn out to help for a share of the meat rather than a wage. No crew of 20 could process a herd this size alone.
Go on, keep up.
Easy now, big fella.
All right, vaccine administered. Nice and calm.
The same trait that makes all of this possible can also undo it. A reindeer is still, underneath the ear notch, a caribou. And when a wild herd numbering in the hundreds of thousands drift close enough to a grazing ground, that old instinct pulls the wrong way. It follows. Herds on this peninsula have vanished into a passing migration before, absorbed within days and never recovered. That is the sharpest test this window sets on land. the hardest test is not all on land at all. It sits underwater, hundreds of miles to the southwest, where the same short season decides the fate of more salmon than anywhere else on Earth. Bristol Bay sits in the southwest of Alaska, a broad body of water fed by 5 river systems that drain out of the mountains and into the Bering Sea. Every summer, this bay carries the largest run of sockeye salmon anywhere on the planet. In 2022, the inshore run reached a staggering 79 million fish, the largest on record, 81% above the average for the previous 20 years. Boats hauled in just over 60 million of them, the biggest commercial harvest ever taken here. All of it moved through a handful of weeks between late June and the middle of July. On its heaviest day that summer, one river district alone brought in more than 2 million fish before dark. And this far north, in that stretch of June, dark barely qualifies as dark at all. A sockeye entering fresh water stops feeding entirely. From the moment it leaves the salt, it runs on what it built at sea. Fat and muscle spent mile by mile on the push upriver. Each fish gets one trip. It reaches the spawning ground, spawns and dies there. The last of what it carried spent on one final act. This run can fall in 2 directions at once, and both are real. Before boats can take their full harvest, a set number of fish has to reach the spawning grounds uncaught, the parents of every run still to come. Hold back too many from making that trip and the fishery starves its own future, one summer at a time. The opposite failure plays out on the water instead of in a ledger. When a run comes in heavier than forecast, as this one did, the count jumps from a trickle to a couple of million fish within a single day, and the nets fill up faster than boats can empty them. Tenders, the vessels that ferry the catch ashore for processing, cannot reach every boat at once. So a captain waiting on a delivery slot loses fishing he cannot spare. 4 of those days lost at the height of a run could cost 80 to 100,000 pounds of fish never brought aboard. A boat that stays out instead of losing that time carries more weight on its back deck than when it was built to hold. Carries more weight on its back deck than what it was built to hold. The kind of load that in this fishery has been known to take down a vessel before it ever reaches the dock. By the second week of July in most years, the peak has already passed. The boats scatter back to harbour and the processing lines slow. And the rivers that carry tens of millions of fish in a matter of weeks fall quiet yet again until the following June. Across the rest of the state, on the same clock, the cabbage fields are running out their last weeks of growth. The hay stands stacked and waiting, and the reindeer corrals sit empty until the fall brings the herds back in. The window that opened with the first long daylight is already closing, everywhere at once. In Alaska, everything lives by the same clock. Crops, wildlife, livestock, and people themselves all race to make the most of a summer that disappears almost as quickly as it arrives. Because once the light fades, another long, unforgiving winter takes over.